Hey everybody, welcome back to Author Eke. Today we have Alex Aaronson. He's going to talk about a pretty good series he's got going on, and I got 50% of the pictures and backup correct on the.
That's right.
So I did fairly decent. So,
That's right.
Alex, take it away. Introduce yourself to the folks.
I'm Alex Aaronson. I've been writing a series called The Soviet Endgame for a couple of years now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently working on book 4.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've got 3 out, but the trick to it is the first 3 came out pretty quickly, and it's been a year since Pursuit by Fire, the last. But I recently reacquired the rights to the series from my publisher, and so I'm kind of trying to do a sort of a relaunch, kind of a restart.
All right.
So
that happens quite frequently in the publishing business. A lot of times you'll go independent because sometimes you just do a better job.
Yeah, in this case, I absolutely loved Frontline Publishing. They were fantastic. I couldn't have done this without them, but I just wasn't, I wasn't able to get the volume that they really needed to make the money that they needed.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, and it was a very, very amicable breakup. I love James and Miranda. They're wonderful over there. We worked 5 books total together. 2 of his, James Razone has a series called The Monroe Doctrine, and it's kind of a future war series, military thriller. And I co-wrote 2 of those books with him, and that would just, I learned so much about writing, just getting into that. So forever in their debt.
So tell us about the series. Tell us, book 1, 2, and 3, and now you're.
Yeah, so this is an alternate history that kicks off in 1979, and so it starts with the Iranian hostage crisis.
Okay.
So in alternate history, you're always going to have this point of diversion, and what is it? And in this case, the point of diversion, and it's pretty shaky. I'll tell you about how I got here, but
okay.
It has the Shah of Iran doesn't actually leave Iran. He actually stays to try and stabilize the secular government that he was trying to uphold while the Ayatollah was taking over. And that led to the Ayatollah not getting quite the grip that he does in our timeline. But we still end up with the hostage crisis, and we're tracking some State Department folks. Then we shift over in December 24th of 1979, big day in the world as the Soviet Union invades Afghanistan. So we follow a bunch of paratroopers from the Soviet VTV and their experience in Afghanistan. And then we meet up with some Marines that are going to be part of Operation Eagle Claw, which was the attempt to rescue the hostages. And in this timeline, it's kind of funny because the people in this timeline, so you think about it, they don't know anything about how it turned out in our world, but they think Eagle Claw was a pretty good success. We only lost about 13 hostages. I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And in our timeline, we're like, oh man, it was another failure, but we did get all the hostages back eventually.
Right.
So it just depends on how you define success.
Right.
But then it goes through, basically the Soviets realize that they're kind of at a turning point. The U.S. Defense Department has a whole bunch of equipment that's about to come online, including the M1 Abrams. The Black Hawk is just come out with the worst airborne. The Aegis cruisers are about to change naval warfare. It's going to completely mess up their concept of using massed missile attacks against the fleet. When we didn't have Aegis, that was a much more viable plan. So they realized, okay, if we're going to do anything, we got to do it now. So it's really, a lot of backroom Soviet politics and creating a situation that would give them a favorable position to start World War III. So that's really what the first book is. And that includes following the CIA training the Contras in Nicaragua. Iraq still invades Iran, but this time with kind of Soviet guidance and leadership. To give them, kind of Saddam Hussein had the, military tactics of a bulldog.
Right.
I mean, he just would throw everything everywhere and see how it goes.
Well, I mean, they used gas too in that, in that war. Terrible. It was almost like World War I.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it was basically got down to infantry and trenches and gas. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
just crazy. So that's it. And then it it does it talks a lot about the politics of the era, the history of the era, and the tagline is where the history you remember takes a turn you'll never forget.
Right.
And
Okay.
I like that. I like taking kind of a look at a lot of the details. So, for example, one of my favorite things when you're researching the book and writing the book was I'm 51 years old, so I don't remember that Gene Kirkpatrick, who I only remember as the ambassador
Mhm.
to the United Nations under Ronald Reagan, was actually a Democrat right up until the Carter administration when she basically switched sides
Mhm.
when Reagan came in. So in this book, when Secretary of State Silas Vance gets canned, they go ahead and bring Gene Kirkpatrick in to be Carter's Secretary of State. And so it's one of it's those kinds of things that I really find. So if you're a total history nerd, you're
Yeah.
absolutely going to love things like that. But at the same time, there is plenty of action. There's plenty of combat in these books. So if you like a regular military thriller, I mean, it lives up to to the cover.
Excellent.
So yeah, is
CH-53.
yes, that's right. That's right. Now you're 2 for 3.
Oh.
So the Sea Stallions, these are what they used, what the Marines used in Eagle Claw, and I know history nerds right now are going to be yelling at me. Well, no, they were Marine Sea Stallions, but I'm not going to digress into that too
Yeah.
far. But yeah, no, as far as like when I decided that I was going to write, I had some time on my hands. It was before the pandemic, oddly. It was 2019. And
Mhm.
I honestly just wanted to write a short story about Eagle Claw and, what would it look like if it had actually succeeded? And
Mhm.
it really just gave me something to focus on. I had started probably half a dozen, novels in my life up to now,
Mhm.
and I would never quite get there. So I said, well, okay, don't think of it as a novel. Just write a short story. And so I did.
Mhm.
And it turned out to be a big chunk of this was that Eagle Claw piece. And I thought, okay, well, that's pretty good, but maybe write another short story. And so I wrote the VDV in Afghanistan,
Mhm.
from the Soviet perspective.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I really enjoyed doing in this was, kind of humanizing the enemy. The Soviets in this are not buffoons, they're not bloodthirsty, they're just, they're just Russians as best I can write
They're
Russians. And
mainly conscripts, right? I mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
they
right.
didn't know.
Yeah, and I do a couple of other nations. So I mean, we do the Soviet point of view in
Mhm.
the second and third books. There's the 21st SAS from the British.
Mhm.
That's a fascinating unit. They were what's called the stay behind unit. So they were at the front lines of the war, and their job was to go hide and let the Soviets go right over them. And then they'd come out and do harassment and assassinations and help get down pilots.
Yeah.
It was
Interesting.
yeah, that was bananas. I was not really aware of that. And
Right.
I consider myself kind of a Cold War, history buff, so
Mhm.
I should have known about that.
Well, I mean, you've got some experience related to the Soviet
Right.
Union because what you did in the Navy.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, I beat the Russians and I ended the Cold War. So the way that works is when I graduated high school, I wasn't sure what to do with myself, and so I joined the Navy as a Russian linguist. And when I joined, there was a Soviet Union. But by the time I got to boot camp, they had heard I was coming, and so they just quit. And
Well,
so,
I will tell you, I lived through that. I was in the Army I joined the Army in 1976, and my first tour in Germany was 1978, along the Czechoslovakian West German border.
right,
And then I came back, went to Fort Hood, and you talked about the M1. That was when they were testing the M1, and that's when I was there when the hostage situation started. I was in 6th Aircraft Combat Brigade.
mhm,
But they were testing the M1 at the 1st Cav Division, I believe it was, or the 2nd Armored Division. And these things would race down Motor Pool Road. You never saw a tank move that
right,
fast. They were just unbelievably fast. And the sound of that turbine. Then I went back and was a East-West German border, got, close up what communism really looked like, right,
right.
staring right in the face. So that, the Cold War, but thanks for ending it.
Yeah, hey, no problem, man. 19 years old, I get that, on my record. I got it
Man,
made.
Yeah, that's pretty damn cool. So what so Afghanistan, of course, Russia was just another country that tried to conquer it and lost because you can't unite a country that can't be united. It's
Yeah.
tribalism, right? You can't.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. No, in fact, I did my undergraduate work in international relations, and one of my favorite papers was about the prerequisites of democracy. And I graduated in 2001. After I got out of the Navy, I went to college,
Yeah.
and as soon as we, invaded Afghanistan and said, "Hey, we're going to make them democracy," it's like, no, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, we can't be nation building. And well, a lot of that, the Middle East was a byproduct of World War One.
Oh, sure, yeah. Yep.
Because of what Germany had to give up from a colonization of Africa and other things, and how then Great Britain, formed Iran, Iraq,
Right.
Afghanistan, Czechoslovakia, the Balkan states,
Right.
all the Czechoslovakia. What happened when Tito would?
Yeah, and Yugoslavia absolutely became.
Yeah. I mean, so some people just don't read history, and the problem is a lot of them bastards are in the government. They're
That's
so
right.
stupid that they don't understand that read history.
I've always been bothered by Iraq, especially, given our history there. We should, and it's hard to, I can see why people don't like to say this out loud because it sounds cruel, but we should have just let them balkanize. Let the all the different, let the Sunnis grab whatever they can, let the Shia grab whatever they can, let the Kurds grab whatever they can, and whatever you can hold on to, and then let's stabilize it, and then you'll have peace. But until we let them.
Yeah, you're not gonna. Yeah, it's messed up. And you think that army generals and that are supposedly historians, most of them, are just absolutely. I don't know what happened to them. I can tell you what happened to them. I'm not going to say what happened to the generals. Right. So when you write, you try to write it. You write it from a historical perspective, but an alternate outcome. Would that be?
The fun, I didn't want to start so close to the point of departure, because then you have to stick with the real history, and then, you can kind of get loose as you get away from that point of departure, but you still have to be able to kind of justify everything. So, for example, when I named Gene Kirkpatrick as the Secretary of State, I had to spend a lot of time, in a conference room with Zbigniew Brzezinski and, the other members of the cabinet, explaining why this makes sense. And they start from the perspective of that's absolute madness to, oh, I get it. I see where you're coming from. Okay. Because if you just, make a jump and don't explain it, there are readers of this genre that will just absolutely brutally one-star you on Amazon and tell you don't know. I mean, in fact, my favorite review, I think it was on Goodreads. It said, "I don't like it when people change history." Bro, you're the one that bought the alternate history book. I mean,
just read history.
Right.
Read nonfiction.
Yes, exactly. Or, I guess even historical fiction, that'd be good. Like I loved 104. That was great. I was really impressed with that.
Thank you. Yeah, that was my first. Now what I'm doing is I'm writing a book of a character out of the book. I'm writing another book.
Oh, good. Yeah. Good.
It's trying to.
I do remember. I knew exactly where you were going when you were doing the hand signals.
Yeah.
You ended up with.
You know what that means. Yeah. Cover me.
As soon as he started doing that, I was like, I know where this is going.
I just try to be diplomatic but.
Oh, yeah. Actually, that's the first thing that Frontline Publishing did. I sent in my manuscript, and they sent it back to me, and there were like basically two things. One, you're way too political sciencey in here. There's way too much that you're going to lose, most of your shooty audience if you don't consolidate some of this. And they're not wrong. I mean, she basically said, Miranda told me, I think you spent the first, third of this book trying to just explain to everybody how smart you are. And I'm like, yeah, kind of.
I would take a page. I would take a page. Maybe I'd take half a page how smart I am. Oh, there you go. There's your reading partner right there.
Yeah. No, this is my writing partner. Yeah, he's new. But, and the other one was, I can't write Marines and not, and I can't write Soviets without, a bunch of vulgarity. So I had to go through and change a lot of the F-bombs. But, and I even had to pull out an entire scene because it was just too much. But that is available on my website at Alex Aaronson. or
There you go.
AlexanderAaronson.com.
Check out that little
You know, I
gem,
mean,
a little nugget out of the book. So,
it's all
yeah, you're writing your fourth. Is it almost completed? When do you
no
think it's going to
way.
be done?
This has been just like a grind because this was always the original intent. My original intent was 3 books in World War III,
Hmm.
then maybe a novella, something to bridge the gap. But I really wanted to jump back into this timeline in the 2000s. So how have things changed? And revisit it. And then that would be, and this is kind of spoilers. One of the first reviews I got for Soviet Endgame called it a prelude to Red Dawn. And I'm like, kinda. I mean, man, talk about
That's not
waste
bad.
20. So the
Yeah.
idea though is to do kind of an Invasion USA series that takes place in the 2000s. And but I was talked into extending this to a 5-book series, and there's no way. There's just no way, man.
Yeah.
Just from my own perspective, I'm like,
Right.
I'm tired of writing it. I can't imagine that people aren't getting tired of reading it.
I'm reading it. Yeah.
Same, how many tank battles can I write where it's the M1s versus the T-72s, T-80s
Yep.
now.
Yep.
It's just kind of taxing. So I would like that refreshing, change of, but I need to close this out. So what I think I'm going to do with book 4 is kind of make it more of a novella, just to close off, all the corridors, to tie up all the loose ends, and get everybody ready for the next one. But, and this is the other thing that was killing
Hmm.
me, and I think this is what really was murdering my ability to write. This series is I have a JFK book that I want to write, and
Oh, wow.
the joke about the JFK book is I need to write it before they release all the documents, and it goes from fiction to nonfiction.
I better hurry up.
So exactly right. Yeah, I'm like,
That's like, I was watching TV and everybody talks about, NATO. And of course, NATO was made, what, in the 50s, I think. That's when NATO started, 75 years old. So wherever that is, right? And they're talking about Article 5, attack against one is attack against
right,
all. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, given today's world, back in the 50s and 60s, 70s, Russia was going to attack Europe, no
right,
doubt.
right,
Right? That's what. But I'm thinking, okay, you look at all the countries in NATO right now, and then let's say that Russia and China got together and attacked Europe and the United States at the same time. How in the world would any of those NATO countries, other than Canada, get any troops in the United States?
yeah, yeah,
They don't have the ships. They
right,
definitely don't have the cargo planes, right? We have all that. We're going to be getting our folks back from Europe.
right, yeah.
So
That's
when I hear this attack on one is attack on all, it worked in Afghanistan because it was way over there. They could, they
right,
could help, but
right.
not all thought. So let's get
True,
that straight,
true.
right? So I'm thinking, I don't think so. I mean, I was part of NATO for a long time. I think it's a great organization. It deterred it did what it's supposed to do, but I don't see Lithuania shipping, half their army to the United States to protect us.
Right. I mean,
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
and when they signed that document, that certainly wasn't what they were thinking about.
No,
You know,
no.
and that without delving too deep into the modern politics, but I do find it interesting. You said it exactly right. You said NATO did what it was supposed to do, and I mentioned I got an undergraduate degree in international relations, and my original intention was to make that into a PhD. I was moving across from California to Maryland, and the dean of my school had just moved over to
Mhm.
the University of Maryland. I was the top political science student in my class, so that's pretty cool. So I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, I'm going to do this PhD in international relations, and the idea behind the thesis was that peace is secured by creating what I would call security structures. A good example is NATO. NATO is a
Mhm.
security structure. It's something that we put together in order to ensure peace in our time. And these security structures are great until they're not. They start to break down over time. And it's what they would call through their own internal contradictions. So NATO is a great example of this. At the end of the Cold War,
Mhm. Shoot, 20 something. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Oh, it said your storage. You're out of storage on your computer. Your computer. What should I do? Hold on. Restart the browser. I mean, I can splice all this together. Where'd my glasses go? Oh, they're on the ground. Hold on. Yeah, I can splice all this together. Um, Free some space on the hard drive and avoid incognito mode. Huh. It says you got to free up some hard disk space. Go back out and come back in, and I'll just splice it. All right. Okay. So,
Okay, we're back.
yeah. So you talked about you get a lot of flack for what's going on with your
Oh yeah,
stance.
because they're like, oh, you just love Russia because you were a Russian linguist and you studied Russia. It's like, no, guys, no. Um, it's and so imagine if we had in 1996, created a security pact with Ukraine that had nothing to do with NATO. It was just us
Mhm.
guaranteeing something to Ukraine, like even just what we're giving them, and if Russia had known the extent to what we would be sending over there, I think they might have second thought
Mhm.
taking this thing. Now, I mean, I was caught off guard like everybody else in the Intel dork sphere with I put some videos up early on saying that I gave it like 6 weeks, 6 months, anywhere
Yeah.
between those two, and yet here we are all these months later,
Oh,
years
two and a
later.
half years. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
crazy.
So
But
you're so you want your JFK book now? I'm gonna have to. So I live close to Dallas because of
me
course I've been
too.
to the book depository and walked down where there's a marking where he got shot and all this stuff. And so, what's your fascination with it? Just because
Okay, so
the things that could have happened?
I was fine with the Warren Report. I was fine with Lone Gunman, sure. And then I moved to Dallas. So I'm actually up in McKinney.
I live
And
in Allen.
oh, okay, we should get together at Armor
Yeah,
Coffee.
definitely.
I got a couple other guys around here too. Oh, hey, by the way, and I don't know if this is going to drop in time, but there's a Texas Author Con coming up in Richardson in 2 weeks.
Okay.
I'll email you the
Yeah.
details, but it's at the that big
Omni.
Hilton.
Oh, okay. I
I
know what
think
you're talking about.
the Hilton. Last year was at
Mhm.
the Renaissance. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, but 2 weeks from now, July 27th and 8th, 26th, 27th, something like that. So we should definitely meet up there. But
I'll be out of town. I'll be in
not too
Arkansas.
bad. So then
Do
Armor
you know
Coffee.
do you know about the book fair in McKinney?
Yeah. I'm signed up for that one too.
Okay, good. Me too. All right.
Oh, great. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
But no, I moved up here. So yeah, I moved to Dallas for the first time in 2005, and I went down to the book depository,
Mm-hmm.
and just standing at that, where you're next to where Oswald was alleged to have taken all the shots, and you look down and you look at Houston Street and you look down on Elm, and then from the outside you look over and you see the I think it's the Daltex or Tex Dow building, and you're just like, there's 1,000 better ways to do this than what they're saying happened. You
Right.
stand on the grassy knoll and you look at the X in the road and you're like, yeah, that makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
And from that minute forward, I was like, nope, I am now full on conspiracy nut. So
So
I'm
then you'll
gonna.
write a book about.
So it's
Well,
gonna
it's going
be
to be interesting if all this stuff comes out. What exactly happened?
exactly because I'm like, how close am I gonna get? Because I want that book because it's my key to the nut jobs, so then I can go to all the little nut job fairs and sell
Yeah.
my book. I can walk around on the grassy knoll with books in my backpack and try selling them to people.
Well, there is a bunch of folks down there that will give you
my
all
youngest
different
and
perspectives.
I went down there for the anniversary, and that was just phenomenal.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It
It's
was a lot of
crazy.
fun.
It's crazy, crazy. So I mean, is that going to be like a project? I mean, you're really you want to write that?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I have basically a 3-book series that I want to put together on this. I just loosely am calling it, for my own internal working, the Cold War series, and it's going to start with the JFK book in the 60s, obviously. That was
Yep.
dumb. Then it's going to jump to the 80s, when it's going to deal with some MK Ultra stuff. So there's that one's going to have some back and forth between when MK Ultra was actually running and then 1980s. It's going to be more of a spy thriller kind of thing than what I'm writing now, which is what scares me the most because you get comfortable. I know that if I get stuck, I can write 5,000 word naval battle, 10,000 word naval battle,
Yep.
and move on.
Yeah, I'll do that. If I get stuck, or I'll write something else, and then just to keep the creative juices flowing or whatever, and then jump back to what I'm writing.
And then the third book will be at the end of the Cold War in the 90s, after the collapse of the Soviet Union. And these will all be historic fiction, not crazy, wild alternate history or anything like that.
Right.
Just writing that. So
yeah, I actually have on the East-West German border. You had a 1K sign, which means you're 1 kilometer from the border.
Right.
No U.S. forces could go any closer than that unless you had authorization or you're on border patrol or something, right?
Right.
Then after the next one after that would be a 50-meter sign, and what that indication was that you couldn't point like a tank barrel cannon or anything over the border, and you had to be really careful. No tracked vehicles could go within 50 meters of the border. So I actually have a 50-meter sign upstairs in my upstairs in the foyer or whatever you call it.
That's awesome.
And then I have a part of the fence, but it's and I have some great pictures. So if you ever want to include in those books, I get some pretty cool pictures of some what they're called Grenzauftklarer, which is the East German soldiers that were allowed to go up to the border. And the fence, if you touch the fence, let's say the Iron Curtain, you were already 10 meters in East Germany. You were already because all there was like in Bavaria, they're border stones, and they're so every so often, and that was the border.
Right.
Or blue and white poles. But I think they're every 50 meters, something like that. But if you touched the fence, you were gone. And the next day, you were back in the States.
Wow. That's
They
crazy.
mess around. Oh,
yeah. No, I don't doubt it.
Crazy. You could jump some idiot. Yeah.
Yeah. Better than North Korea where you're just going to get shot.
There you go. Yeah. Exactly. So your series there is all 1981. Is that the main?
So the war kicks off proper in 1980, like January of 1981.
Okay.
And then it's going into 82 when I'm gonna wrap it up.
Right.
And yeah, it gets pretty harrowing. It's not just Europe because Kim Il Sung decides he wants to kick it off too. So we have a whole second plot, which is the Second Korean War. And So yeah, the Marines that we followed from in the first book that did Eagle Claw, they then get deployed to Nicaragua, and then after Nicaragua, they get sent to Korea. So they just get
Shuffled around.
yeah, not a good deployment there. You go from sweating your ass off in Nicaragua to freezing in North Korea.
Yeah,
So,
definitely a cold environment. You think we'd learn from there?
Yep. I was stationed in northern Japan, and that was as cold as I wanted to
that
get.
gets cold.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That gets really cold. Yeah, so let's show the cover again. And where can everybody get a hold of you?
Well, let's see. Obviously, Amazon. You can Soviet Endgame, Advanced Contact. My name, Alex Aaronson. Any of those will get you there.
All right.
And I'm on all the socials. I spend most of my time on Twitter at Alex Aaronson 80. I just 80. And I spend a lot of time on my YouTube channel. Well, I don't spend as much time as I used to, but I've got a lot of content on my YouTube channel that people might find interesting.
All right, excellent. Because you write other things. You write shorts on different topics and things.
Yeah, I do a little bit. A little bit of everything. So
okay, awesome. Well, we're gonna have to get together. We only live probably 5 miles apart.
I know, that's funny.
Jack Stewart lives in Frisco.
Okay, yeah.
I had a coffee with him the other day, and there's another guy. He's a colonel in the Navy that writes. Who? Captain. Yeah,
captain.
A captain. Yeah, a captain. Colonel in the Army. And he lives close to here, too. He writes a lot of books. But I saw him in Kroger one day selling his books and stuff. So there's a few around here. But we'll get together definitely at the author, the book thing in McKinney Library on the
that's
17th, 16th, and 17th.
Yeah, right. Schedule. Gosh, that's right around the corner now.
Excellent. Well, Alex, it was great meeting you. And next time I have to do this in person.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you very much for having me on. I really, really appreciate it, man.
Thank you.